1.
Red flag. Red flag's to slow down. What?
The checkered flag is waiting.
I can see our Checkered Flag podcast being quite spicy.
5 Live's Checkered Flag podcast.
Hello, I'm Rosanna Tennant and welcome to the paddock here in Monza. We've just watched qualifying and it was, believe it or not, a Ferrari on pole position. Carlos Sainz taking the top spot, and what a result for the adoring and passionate Tifosi, the Ferrari fans that have been out in force all weekend long, rewarded with a pole position. We'll talk about the rest of the order very shortly, but I'm going to bring our lead commentator Harry Benjamin and former F1 driver Jolyon Palmer in on this. What a moment, Jolyon. We ummed and ahed, didn't we, whether it would be Max Verstappen or Carlos Sainz on pole. Of course, he'd been fastest in FP2 and FP3, but it's 2023 and it's Max Verstappen who usually gets pole, isn't it?
Usually, but on Saturdays he's been slightly more vulnerable to attack. Hamilton beat him to pole in Budapest. Charles Leclerc's had a pole outright in Baku as well. So he's not been unstoppable in qualifying, and he wasn't today. Carlos Sainz cemented a really good run through practice, and I mean there was nothing in it, 13 thousandths in the end. It was nip and tuck, but to the delight of the crowd, Sainz took pole, and to the delight of Sainz. I mean, I don't think I've seen someone that ecstatic to take pole position in a long, long time. And it was a great job, well done through the whole weekend to this point to get it. And pole in a Ferrari in Monza is terrific. I imagine it's the dream feeling for him for Saturday night.
Certainly is the stuff of dreams. His fourth career pole, his first pole of 2023. It's looking good for Carlos Sainz at the moment, and this car, the Ferrari, has been so difficult to get a handle on, hasn't it, Harry? So inconsistent. That's what the drivers have normally been telling us.
Yeah, well, particularly in Leclerc, he's probably the more inconsistent of the drivers. Carlos Sainz, kind of has the mindset of I'll take what I've got and I'll just get the absolute maximum out of it that I can every time, and he has sort of delivered on that there or thereabouts. Leclerc gets the headline results, but Sainz scores the points and banks them. There's a reason he's now that he is the highest driver in the standings. He's fifth with no podium to his name at all. Leclerc's behind him in the points and has those podiums from Baku and later on in Belgium as well. So I think Sainz was able to capitalise on the track characteristics suiting the Ferrari. And there's something else, maybe it's this alternative tyre allocation as well that's benefited him too, but he's just had the confidence, and I think everybody had a smile on their face come the end of qualifying.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to a battle between Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen. Let's hear from Carlos Sainz, then turned 29 yesterday, and he's on pole position today for tomorrow's Italian Grand Prix.
Amazing. One of the best feelings that I've had as a racing driver in my career, just putting such a good lap together and making that lap of honor afterwards, to celebrate with the Tifosi after a great, I think it was exciting qualifying session with Charles and Max pushing to the limit, bit like it was last year, and it felt great to be back fighting for pole.
Carlos, you said dreaming is for free. What a moment for you. Half of the dreams come true today. How likely is it that you can complete that dream tomorrow?
Yeah, obviously I'm going to keep dreaming tonight, and see that if I can make it happen tomorrow. That's my number one priority and my number one target. It's not going to be easy at all, because it's we're up against a car that in race pace they are just super dominant and super quick, but remaining optimistic, remaining calm and doing a good job, well done, anything is possible.
Have you turned a corner, do you think, with this car? Zandvoort was a good result for you in the end. Do you feel like you're understanding it better?
It's what it is this year. There are some tracks where we are 1 second off the pace, other tracks that we're on pole. It just shows how dependent we are on the track characteristics and setup. We just need to maximize the weekends where we are on having a good day or having a good car, and then on the weekends that we need to be ready to suffer, like Zandvoort, get the P5s. And that's it. That's the story of the year, and that's what we need to make sure we keep doing.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So that was Carlos Sainz, your pole sitter for the Italian Grand Prix in a Ferrari at Monza. What a scenario it's going to be on the grid tomorrow afternoon. Cannot wait to get there. But why are Ferrari so fast here, Jolyon? What's changed, or what is it about the car that suits this track?
Well, yeah, it's the circuit that's changed, and Ferrari, they've been good this year on low downforce circuits. So they had pole in Baku with Charles Leclerc. They won they had pole for the sprint as well, the sprint qualifying. And that was another sort of pretty low downforce circuit. And Monza is all about top speed, low downforce. And the Ferrari car has got a really good top speed here. So once again, they're very quick. The difficulty for Ferrari this year has been in the higher downforce circuits, and that is your Zandvoorts, your Silverstones with the fast corners there as well. Budapest wasn't fantastic for them either. They were in fact really struggling. Sainz didn't even make Q3 in Budapest. So they're really in that best of the rest pack. They're very up and down, and it kind of is aligned to, do you need downforce in the car, or do you need straight line speed? And Monza is well tailored to them, which is good news because it's their home race.
It certainly is. They do go through their tyres a little bit, Harry, though, don't they? So that must be one of the challenges that Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, starting from P3, are going to be up against tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be. The heat as well is going to play a factor into the pit strategy tomorrow. But I mean, how's it set up then with the race after this alternative tyre allocation, where they've had to use softs in Q3 and then the mediums in Q2 and then the hards in Q1. So they've used up a load and they've kind of been managing that throughout practice in the build-up. But surely Sainz is going to try and run as long as he can if he's in front, clean air in front of Verstappen, and keep him behind for as long as is possible. Maybe there's going to be teamwork there from the two Ferraris.
Yeah, well, firstly, he'll hope to lead into the first corner, and secondly, it's going to come down to tyre life for the battle at the front, and that's where Ferrari are very circumspect. Even though they had good pace on one lap, we're expecting it to be a one-stop strategy tomorrow. Monza is quite a high pit stop loss because it's such a fast straight that you're missing out when you dive into the pits. So you lose a lot for a pit stop, and is fairly low deg, which will help Ferrari in the first instance. Their top speed is pretty good, which helps them in the second instance, but their tyre deg is higher than Red Bull's, and that's where they're still thinking. I mean, the smart money is on Verstappen to win the race still. You're wondering how on earth Verstappen doesn't win the race, to be honest, from second on the grid. And apart from luck for Ferrari and the timing of a safety car working towards them, or the pit lane being shut, which helped Pierre Gasly to a win all those years ago. You know, apart from something wild like that, the only thing that I can really think is teamwork. And that is somehow they run 1-2 and they use DRS from one car to let the other car defend from Verstappen and frustrate him. And even then I'm thinking the pit stop will change that. Verstappen can undercut or overcut, and it's a long shot. Apart from that, you know, his pace is so good this year, Max. It's difficult to see how Ferrari win it, even though they're first and third on the grid. Ridiculous.
Well, I'm going to stick with Ferrari. Let's hear from Charles Leclerc then. Finishing P3 on the road today, he said he didn't have slipstream. Could they have done a better job with positioning him out in qualifying in that final part of Q3? Maybe. Let's hear what he had to say to me.
I'm feeling good. Obviously, it's a good day for the team. I am not fully happy as I'm third and not first. On the other hand, Carlos has done an incredible job. From FP1 to qualifying, he's been on it. On my side yesterday, I went in a setup direction that was really wrong, and I lost a bit of confidence. And then this morning from FP3, I basically copied the setup of Carlos, and there I found the confidence again. And in qualifying, I was feeling very confident. But again, Carlos has done a great job all qualifying, and he deserves that pole. On our side, we could have managed Q3 maybe a little bit better, as I found myself first of the group. And I had Fernando in front, but he was too far, so I had no slipstream, which we lost a little bit there. But it's a good day for the team. I'm happy anyway, and tomorrow, first and third, hopefully we can have a good start, being first and second, and then do a 1-2. That would be amazing.
Well, congratulations, Charles. Amazing for the team. If you'd had the slipstream, do you think it would have been P2, or do you think you could have actually had pole off Carlos?
I don't want to think about that. At the end result is that I am P3, and Carlos has done an incredible job today. Yes, we maybe did not optimize everything on my side, but I am happy with the job I've done, and again, Carlos has been very impressive all qualifying. So today is his day, and he's done a better job than I did. So congrats to him.
Of course, it's going to be 2 Ferraris versus 1 Red Bull at the sharp end of the grid tomorrow. Does that mean you can force Max into doing something he doesn't want to, or is his pace just too strong?
I don't know, because Checo has been extremely strong on high fuel this weekend. A bit less on low fuel, but very strong on high fuel. So I expect both Red Bull to be strong tomorrow, which hopefully will make an interesting race. I don't really know what to expect in terms of pace compared to them, but we'll try to play with both cars in order to beat them.
So that was Charles Leclerc. He'll start on the second row of the grid from P3. We'll talk more about him and the rest of the grid very shortly. You're listening to the Chequered Flag podcast, and we've just been hearing from Charles Leclerc, who finished P3 in qualifying this afternoon, putting himself in a good position for Ferrari on home soil. But we've been talking about 2 versus 1, the 2 Ferraris versus Max Verstappen, but it feels like the Max Verstappen Red Bull is dominant enough to take on 2 Ferraris.
Yes, I fear the writing is on the wall. It could well be as simple as Slipstream City down to turn 1 and the move is done. But, you know, I'm sensing something a little bit different about this weekend, and that is pure sense, because you've got the Tifosi, you've got Ferrari on home soil, and the boost that this pole and the third would have given them it might elevate them and give them something a little extra. But Verstappen will be looking for his 10th consecutive race win, and it looks very unlikely unless we get a crazy Monza like we have had in previous years.
The last time Verstappen didn't qualify on pole was Budapest, where Hamilton was on pole. He didn't start on pole in Belgium, but romped through pretty quickly. And I really hoped in Budapest that we'd have quite a battle between Hamilton and Verstappen, and it was done into turn 1, and then it was really, really done thereafter. I do hope once again that at least Sainz can keep the lead at turn 1 this time around. Verstappen's starts have been fairly hit and miss, actually. It was a hit in Budapest, it was a miss, for example, in Silverstone when Norris came through to take the lead, and again that wasn't a tough fight either, but I really hope that Sainz would put up more of a fight. Of course, Ferrari land, Monza in a Ferrari leading the race, you hope that would be enough. And I think Carlos is a pretty good racer as well. Think back to Austria when he frustrated Sergio Perez coming through later on. He's got, I think, quite good wheel-to-wheel ability. He came through the pack himself pretty well last year in Monza. So you never know with a little bit of that as well. And let's not forget, he's actually not had a podium this year, Carlos. And suddenly he's on pole position. So it's a big chance for him to not only get a win, but at least get a podium.
Ferrari got a new lead driver?
No.
I tell you what, Julian, I've got a question. The way that the circuit's laid out with that first turn, the going to the right, then straight to the left, does that change how the start could play out at all? It's a bit different to Budapest and the Hungaroring, isn't it?
Yeah, Budapest is a bit simpler because it's a right-hand hairpin, and if you get down the inside, it's very difficult to stop. If someone's on your inside into the first corner of Monza, then you can sort of fumble around and go side by side, have the inside for turn 2. But I think if you're Sainz, you've got to come across and not let Verstappen have a nose in on the inside. Just cover the inside and just don't be done around the outside there. I think you're sloppy if you have the inside line into turn 1. You just cannot be done then around the outside. You can't give someone the chance to keep a nose in at turn 2. And it will come down to being the run off the line. It's a reasonable run to the first corner, and the actual reaction time, but then applying the throttle off the line will be important, because if Sainz can just come across and cut off Verstappen into the first corner, Max I don't see going around the outside of him. Then you're running again through Curva Grande to the second chicane. You've got to cover the inside once again. You cannot be done around the outside on the opening lap in these places. And then it'll filter out a little bit through the Lesmos, but it's just going to be covering the inside and not being too early on the brakes.
Well, we're talking about the start. Of course, it's going to be a long race tomorrow, but Max Verstappen says he has a quick race car. And you don't hear this often from Formula One drivers, but he was happy to be second today. Let's hear from Max Verstappen, starting on the front row alongside Carlos Sainz.
We had a good day, I think, but Ferrari seemed like, already from yesterday, they hit the ground running very strongly, and that's fine. I mean, from our side, I think we improved our car nicely today, and then we just missed out in qualifying, but the margins are very tight, and tomorrow hopefully we can show again that we are good on tires, and I think that's where we want to be quick.
Max, well done, front row start. Do you know where it got away from you out there today, those little tiny margins?
Not really. I mean, I know, of course, like the places they were always quick, turn 1, braking, like turn 4, 5, that combination. But, from our side, I thought my lap was all right. There's nothing that I really missed or made a mistake at. So then it's fine to be second.
And come tomorrow, are you just going to play the waiting game and let their tyres degrade and then sail past them, or are you attacking right from the start?
I mean, that sounds very nice. I hope it will play out a little bit like that, but we'll find out tomorrow.
So the hopes of the Tifosi are resting on Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc to bring home a podium, maybe even that race win, and to stop Max Verstappen and his dominance, of course, going for that 10th consecutive win. If Ferrari can do it, does that give hope to the other teams on the grid? Does it give hope to Formula One in 2023, guys?
Well, I don't know if that's quite the way. I mean, we all know this is Verstappen's title for the taking. The win is usually going to be his, bar the couple that Perez managed to nick at the start of the year once, until Verstappen finally kind of got the upgrades that he wanted on that Red Bull, and hey presto, he won every race after Baku. But, I mean, look, last weekend in the Netherlands, Max Verstappen won, but it was a really good race, and it was entertaining. We had the weather come into it, we had different race leaders, we had different cars all jumbled up, and okay, maybe we don't get that too often, but that was a really exciting race, yes, with the same winner. But I don't think Verstappen, if he wins tomorrow, that's going to be, well, that's it for F1 then. It's done and dusted, because we've been here before.
9 in a row already? So the 10th isn't going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, is it? At this point, let's be honest.
But that's where I draw the line.
Well, there's a few things here. Firstly, I think if he's beaten tomorrow in a straight fight, then that, I mean, how encouraging is that for not only Ferrari, but in answer to your question, Rosanna, I think that would give McLaren, Mercedes, maybe even Aston Martin a little bit more hope that these guys are beatable, because at the moment I think everyone just starts a weekend thinking maybe in qualifying we can be close, but we're not going to beat them in the race, and that'll be probably Ferrari's viewpoint right now. So I think beating them for the team's perspective would be pretty big, just to actually defeat Red Bull, who at the moment are this juggernaut that are just trampling on everyone every weekend. From the sports perspective, there are plenty in the paddock that would say this is a masterclass from Verstappen. This is a pleasure to watch someone driving in perfect harmony with his machinery, breaking the records, showing the absolute extent of what's possible week in, week out. And, sometimes you can understand that when we've seen some real mastery from Verstappen this year. But it would be good to have a bit more competition, I think. And there's two things. There's firstly a record there's still on the line with 9 races to go. No team has ever won every race in a season. Red Bull are on to do that, so there's interest regardless heading into the last 8 races. And I guess Verstappen not starting on pole, Red Bull not starting on pole, blows that one a little bit open, slightly. But there's the other side that says we want to have the most competitive Formula One we can have. And if Red Bull weren't in this fight this season, it would have been brilliant. It would have been brilliant. We'd have had Ferrari winning races. We'd have had Alonso on the top step. We'd have had McLaren on the top step. Mercedes there. I mean, I don't think Alpine would have had a win, but they would have been very, very close.
Maybe a second.
Exactly.
Monaco.
Yeah.
Last weekend. Yeah.
And Zandvoort. So they've been there as well. Behind Red Bull, it's been so close. And what we do want to see moving forward is everyone else moving up. And we want to see it being a little bit more open as much as we can, witness some dominance. I don't look back on the 2004 season when Schumacher was actually even more successful to this point in the season than Verstappen is. I don't look too fondly back on that, even though I'm sure it was masterclass from Schumacher. I want to see more competition out there.
But you say we have seen up and down, but behind Verstappen and Red Bull, look at McLaren's rise once they brought in upgrades. Look at Ferrari this weekend showing some brilliant pace. Aston Martin at the start of the year. Alpine have been flipping up and down like a switch. The Williams of Albon in particular. There's some really good battles going on in Formula One right now. And from a Formula One perspective, yes, okay, it can get a bit boring if it is the same guy winning every time. But it doesn't matter who wins as long as there's a fight. And right now, there isn't too often a fight. If we get a fight, everyone's happy. But at the end of the day, I don't think Formula One this season is suffering as it has done as Jolien says, in eras gone by like 2004. I just think now we're in the modern day era and there's more and more scrutiny through us and through social media and everything that we have to have a different winner every single time. We don't, but we do need a fight.
Well, hopefully we can get some more flashes of brilliance, but that doesn't necessarily end dominance, does it? So we've covered off your top three. Carlos Sainz on pole alongside Max Verstappen. Then it's Charles Leclerc on the second row alongside George Russell, making it back-to-back P4 starts for him in the Mercedes. Perhaps we're expecting more from them, but it'd be interesting to see what they can do in race trim. Then it's Sergio Perez, P5 for him after a tricky end to FP2 yesterday, and then a little leak as well during FP3, but he's optimistic for tomorrow's Grand Prix. And then Alex Albon in the Williams. Great to see him up there. His fifth Q3 appearance in the last 7 races. Oscar Piastri out-qualifying Lando Norris in P7. Then Lewis Hamilton, P8. Struggled with the setup coming into this weekend. Lando Norris, P9. And then P10, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. Were we expecting more from the McLarens, guys? Great that Oscar's got a bit of a handle on Lando Norris now and therefore feeling more comfortable with the car. But should there have been more there from McLaren?
For McLaren, I think we expected more, but there were signs of this already. They struggle on the hard and the medium compounded tyre, and so they nicked through in Q1 and Q2, and then but even when we did switch onto the soft in Q3, they obviously couldn't light it up as brilliant as they thought they could, and then things started to tighten up a little bit. So I think we did expect more, Jolien. I mean, I expected more.
Yeah, I thought they would be. They've been really strong in general form recently, and in practice yesterday on the soft tyre particularly, they were very quick. So I think they'll be disappointed. I think Norris will be really disappointed to be down there in 9th.
Out-qualified by Piastri.
Yeah, it's a tough one for Lando. The other team is Mercedes, who actually George Russell did a really good job to get to 4th on the grid. That was standout. That was the standout result for me, was Russell. Apart from obviously Sainz on pole, was Russell getting that Mercedes to 4th, because Hamilton was just struggling quite a lot throughout qualifying, and Mercedes generally have looked quite well on the back foot so far this weekend. They're not particularly quick on the low downforce circuit here, and carrying a bit of a straight line speed deficit. So I think Mercedes and McLaren both disappointed.
I am, as I said, very impressed with Alex Albon in the Williams. His teammate Logan Sargent only managing P15. So is it the Alex Albon factor, or is the Williams just really great around this track and it was Alex that was able to extract that? And if he can make his car as wide as possible tomorrow, is he in with a chance of hanging on to that P6 tomorrow?
I don't see why not. The car's good in a straight line. Williams thought they'd be pretty quick this weekend, and they are. And Albon is just a very decent driver, isn't he? He got into a Red Bull and didn't quite cut it against Max Verstappen, but he's very decent with the rest of everyone else. And he's getting that Williams to where it deserves to be, which is a good car, fighting amongst the rest of them behind the Red Bulls at the moment. So I don't see why he can't fight for some big points again. And they are hauling themselves into a comfortable 7th place in the Constructors, and they're well clear of the other 3 teams, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo and Haas right now.
And this is a track on paper, Rosanna, that does suit the Williams, and they are now actually capitalising on that, whereas before, the amount of times this year that Albon has said, Miami, or even last weekend in Zandvoort, this is on paper, it's the worst track for us, it's just really going to be awful. And then lo and behold, they perform. The other thing that highlights Albon's impressiveness is how much he is really trouncing Logan Sargent now. That is becoming more and more evident.
I think what's interesting from what Alex Albon was telling us in the media pen earlier on is that actually they were focusing on their race car. So to then go and stick it in P6 in qualifying, that's super impressive. But I think they may come a cropper during the Grand Prix with their tyres that they've got left. I think that might be a little bit tricky for him in the Williams. Let's look further down the order then. We've mentioned that the Williams were ahead of the AlphaTauris. Yes, Yuki Tsunoda P11, ahead of his new teammate Liam Lawson P12. Actually not a bad performance, given Liam only jumped in the car a week ago for the very first time.
Yeah, only a couple of tenths behind Tsunoda, and that's where he's kind of been there or thereabouts all weekend long. I think he actually finished ahead of him in one of the practice sessions. So nice work from Lawson. And actually, I think Alpha will be really happy with that. They brought a lot of upgrades this weekend, and for a team languishing right at the back of the Constructors, to get both cars 11th and 12th on the fringes of the top 10, beating their direct rivals, really, and also beating 2 Alpines and an Aston Martin, I think they'll take that and then some.
Absolutely. P13 for Nico Hulkenberg, Valtteri Bottas P14 ahead of Logan Sargent, and then P16 Zhou Guanyu ahead of Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon. As you said, both Alpines not making it through to Q2. I think they knew that was going to be a tough ask today, which is just not what they need to be thinking at the moment. Alpine need to be pushing through really into Q3, let alone Q2. Kevin Magnussen P19 and Lance Stroll P20. It's been difficult from the outset for him. Of course, missed FP1 so that Felipe Drugovich could have a drive. Then he had a fuel system issue in FP2, and I think it hasn't really set him up for a great Italian Grand Prix, starting dead last. So as we look to a Ferrari pole position tomorrow afternoon, I'm already excited about the grid, guys. Who do you think is going to be on that incredible podium that juts out over the start-finish straight? Carlos Sainz says it's free to dream. Can he dream big enough for a win tomorrow afternoon?
Well, see, I don't think dreaming necessarily turns into reality. And I don't know about you, Rosanna, if you're maybe Rosanna is living the dream. And
honestly, I am.
Yeah.
I'm commentating with Jolyon Palmer, the former F1 driver. I am living the dream.
And you know what? If you can dream big enough, maybe you can achieve it. But I don't think he can. I think it's going to be Max Verstappen who's going to be unstoppable at the moment. So
straight away or later on in the race?
First stint done.
I was going to say first corner.
Yeah, I was going to say first corner.
There we go.
It's going to get a little tight, isn't it, in that first part? My goodness
we
me.
can hope for a good race, but if anyone could beat Verstappen, it will be the story of the season. George Russell's the only one to do it in a year, to beat Red Bull.
I really want Sainz on the podium because I just think he deserves a podium after his performance today. And having got all season long so far without a podium, I'd like to see him on there. I don't think he's going to be on the top step either. It will be Verstappen who will go for his 10th consecutive race win. What about you, Rosanna?
Well, I think the smart money is on Max Verstappen, isn't it? But I agree, this place will go off if the Ferrari guys are on that podium. So who knows? Maybe a little bit of Monza magic. You never know around here, do you? Hopefully we'll have a cracking race though, and it's just great to see somebody else on pole position as we head into the Italian Grand Prix tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully you will be able to join us. Jolyon Palmer, thank you so much. Harry Benjamin as well, our lead commentator today, will be with you to talk you through the Italian Grand Prix tomorrow. But from us now, it's goodbye. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.